In As I Lay Dying, the story of a rural family's journey to bury their dead matriarch, author William Faulkner uses his characters to demonstrate a certain perspective on death. Through the actions of Dewey Dell, Jewel, Cash, and Vardaman, Faulkner shows that a person's upbringing can force them to constantly be self-reliant, which increases their ambitions and lengths they will go in getting what they want. All of their lives, the Bundren children have been told the same thing by their father, Ans.
If I sweat, I'll die. If I sweat, I'll die. If I sweat, I'll die. If I sweat, I will die.
Ans's repeated claim tells his children that their father will not provide for them. Instead, they must work to get what they need to survive. This constant working and self-sufficiency makes these characters into opportunists. They will take what they can when they can, using the circumstances to help them achieve their goal. As shown by their actions later in the book, these characters have learned to make use of any situation, including the death of their mother. Perhaps the most obvious use of Addie's death for a specific motive is that of Dewey Dell. Throughout the novel, her desperation to end her pregnancy is clear. Unable to tell her family about her pregnancy, she must rely on herself and work out her own way to get help. Through Addie's death, Dewey Dell is given access to Dr. Peabody and feels that he can help her.
It's because I am alone. If I could just feel it, it would be different, because I would not be alone. But if I were not alone, everybody would know it, and he could do so much for me, and then I would not be alone. Then I could be all right alone. I would let him come in between me and Leif, like Darl came in between me and Leif. And so Leif is alone too. He is Leif, and I am Dewey Dell. And when Mother died, I had to go beyond and outside of me, and Leif, and Darl, to grieve. Because he could do so much for me, and he don't know it. He don't even know it.
As shown by the fact that Addie is minimally visible in the scene, Dewey Dell is much more focused on getting help than on the fact that her mother is dying. This shows that her need to help herself has created an ambition that overshadows even her family. Although it is less obvious than Dewey Dell, Jewel also sees a chance to take advantage of Addie's death. He has been waiting for an opportunity to escape the family for a very long time. Jewel was raised by the same father as the other Bundren children, and thus he has the same sense of self-reliance and ambition. However, due to his mother's infidelity, he is different from the others and feels like an outsider. He was raised by Ans, but Ans is not his birth father. Therefore, Jewel's pedigree, bone structure, and his attitude are all much different than the other family members. Jewel's striking individuality forces him to look beyond their family to the rest of the world. He desperately seeks life outside of the family and is waiting for an opportunity to escape them. So finally, on the way to Jefferson, which is a town very far from their home, the opportunity arises.
You mean you tried to sell my horse?
God knows, for 15 years, I ain't had a tooth in my head. If I can live without teeth, you can live without a horse.
Hell. Let's go.
Jewel then rides off, finally escaping the Bundrens. After having remained consistently distant in emotion from the rest of the family throughout the book, Jewel now has the physical distance that he so desperately desired. Addie's death and the circumstances at hand allowed him the opportunity to escape them. The fact that he later returns and allows his horse to be sold further proves that he is different from the rest of the Bundrens, because he was willing to give up his ambition, perhaps out of loyalty. Cash especially has had to be self-reliant throughout his life. In fact, he, through his carpentry, has to provide not only for himself, but for the rest of his family as well. Thus, he too has become ambitious and uses his mother's death to get what he wants. At first, what he wants is rather unclear. Darrell mentions on page 190 that Cash had planned to buy a talking machine in town. Later in the book, it becomes clear what the talking machine is.
I don't know if a little music ain't about the nicest thing a fella can have. Seems like when he comes in tired of a night, it ain't nothing could rest him like having a little music played.
The gramophone, which gives access to the modern music and culture of the time, may also symbolize Cash's desire to have a greater connection with society, as he has been isolated most of his life. Going into town allows him to achieve this ambition. Though he is young and relatively innocent, Vardaman also stands to gain something from his mother's death. Over and over, Vardaman mentions the toy train that he wants.
Dewey Dale,
What?
if it ain't Christmas here, how will it be there?
Will what be there?
That train. In the window.
You go to sleep. You can see tomorrow if it's there.
Going into town to bury Addie is in his best interest. Although he has no influence on whether or not the family goes into town, he certainly seems focused on the toy train. As time passes, this focus increases and his focus on Addie's death decreases, indicating that he may have become aware of the fact that he must be ambitious and opportunistic like Dewey Dell, Jewel, and Cash in order to get what he needs.
As shown by the actions of Dewey Dell, Jewel, Cash, and Vardaman in As I Lay Dying, being raised to be completely self-reliant can result in greater ambition in a person, which can then create in them the tendency to use any and every situation for gain.